Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Van Andel Institute for Education's free webinar series. My name is Michael Grebe. I'm a K through 12 learning specialist here at the Van Andel Institute for Education. I'm so glad you could join me today because today we have something that I'm very, very excited about. First of all, I'd like to just thank you for being here. If you're watching me live right now, you're probably watching me like after the school day. Kudos to you. My applause goes to you. Thank you for trying to be the best teacher that you can possibly be for your students. That means so much to me, and I know it means a lot to your students as well. So thank you for being here. But most importantly, I'm excited to talk to you about something that I have a real interest in, and that is escape rooms. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to crack the code. We are going to try to use escape rooms as learning tools for our students to engage them in our content, and hopefully come up with a really cool experience for our students to participate in. So if you're interested in that, just like I am, you guys are in the right spot. If you have been here to our webinars before, there are three things that you already probably know. If you don't know about these, here we go. The very first thing is that each and every single one of our free webinars is recorded, meaning if you want to view a previous one, or if you need to rewind this one, watch it a few times, go along with the steps that I'm going to tell you about, it is all being recorded. It can all be found on our website. You can navigate to all of them there. We have a huge library of them. Make sure you check them out because there's a lot of great content on there. The second thing that you should know is in just a second, there will be a handout that gets dropped in the comments section. In that handout has links to all the different resources that I'm giving to you completely free today. This includes the templates, this includes the softwares that I use. All of that good information in a nice summarized form can be found in that handout. And finally, behind the curtain is the infamous Robin. Robin, would you like to say hi to everybody?
Of course. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's staying warm, or at least us over here in the Midwest area. It is very chilly, so hope you guys are having a great night or a great afternoon.
Right on. And Robin is here to help. If you guys have any issues or questions while I'm talking at all during the webinar, feel free to drop it into the comments. She is there to answer all those questions, help you guys out. She is going to be my wing woman for today. So Robin, thank you for being here. I mentioned at the very start that this is a free webinar series, and this totally could not be possible without your love and support for what we call our Inquiry Outpost. Who is our sponsor today? In the Inquiry Outpost, think of it as a supermarket for teachers. Now, this digital marketplace has all sorts of materials that are meant to save you time and energy in the classroom. All of these materials we develop, we test with students, and we give to you. We know they work, we know they engage students, and I certainly encourage you to check them out. These things include the STEM challenge cards, which are like quick cards you can just pull out in the middle of any lesson. They have STEM connections. We have books to builds, which is connecting literature to different STEM challenges in a super easy, comprehensive way for your students. And finally, that teacher strategy vault. If you're looking to add some more tools to your teacher tool belt, that's a really great place to start. They have all sorts of resources that you can start using new strategies as soon as tomorrow. And the last one I'll mention, and you'll notice I skipped over it, is that VAI Educators Studio. We have just rolled out something super exciting. It's this membership sort of format, right? So you get the membership and you get access to all these different resources within our Inquiry Outpost. Again, all these materials are meant to save you time, promote curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. So if you like all of those things, I encourage you to check it out. It supports us and makes these free webinars possible. Check us out, and all of that membership is cheaper than a week's worth of very specialty coffee. So check it out. It's worth it. Onward we go. I am curious of who is here today. If you would, there is a poll that should have just popped up on your screen. I'm curious if I can talk up, if I can talk down to it. Who is here today? What do you teach? That way I can kind of adjust my content accordingly. So take a second to roll in some poll results there. Give you another
Michael, they're still rolling, and I'm going to give about 3 or 4 more seconds.
Right on. Let us know where you teach, what you teach.
All right, I am closing it out. And it looks like we have representation across the board tonight, which is amazing. At the top, we're upper at 43% upper elementary, 38% middle school. Those are kind of the biggest ones. And then 13 to 15% for early elementary, high school, and admin other.
Awesome. Yeah, we have folks from all over the place. So thank you for being here, everybody. More importantly, that means I get to kind of slide this content around up and down depending on grade level. So I'm going to be talking pretty broadly today, but I know your expertise will be able to sort of adjust it from there as well. So what's on the agenda for today? Today, we're going to be talking about simply what are escape rooms. I assume since you're here, you probably know a little bit something about escape rooms, but just to get everybody on the same page, what are escape rooms? How can we use them as educators? We're going to move down to cracking the code, which is finally, how do we package these experiences for students to be able to engage with? And finally, we're going to wrap up with all sorts of resources that you can use with your students, honestly, as soon as tomorrow. So check it out. What are escape rooms? Now, again, if you're here, these probably aren't new to you, right? This isn't a new idea. Honestly, escape rooms have been around since like the early 2010s is really when they kind of started blowing up. I remember them even in the early 2000s starting to pop up around big cities. The idea behind an escape room, right, is that you are locked in this environment, and this environment is a structured problem-solving experience where participants have to use creativity, they got to use curiosity and critical thinking to make progress to get themselves out of the room. Now they do that by, jiggling different things on the walls and opening and closing and trying to find different combinations. And this results in a really engaging experiences from, kids up to adults. I myself, I love these things. I did one, let's see, a couple months ago. It was like space themed. It was super cool. So these escape rooms, right, they promote curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. These are all things that I not only enjoy to do just for fun, and obviously other people like to enjoy them for fun out in, sort of quote unquote the real world, but these are also the skills that I want my students to use as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to find out how we can mesh sort of that engagement that we get from escape rooms with our content area. Now, this has tried to be, this has been done before, right, by teachers. You have probably seen these online escape room before. Museums put them out, especially around the COVID era. Teachers really tried to implement these out. Now, all these websites that you see on the screen, these are all linked in that resource document that Robin shared in the comments. So if you are curious just to explore what's out there, I definitely encourage you to check these out. The one thing I will say, my one problem with a lot of these different escape rooms is it's really easy to make an escape room that is just kind of fun, that's just kind of goofy, got some silly clues in there. But what's really challenging is how do you make, or how can you make an escape room that not only is engaging for your students, but also focuses on that teaching content that I'm trying to get to them, right? Those ideas, that depth of knowledge that I'm trying to teach them in my discipline. So how do we merge those two fields together? Now, there's a couple resources out there, right, that do accomplish this. However, a lot of these different tools kind of miss the mark on that. So what I hope to do with you today is I hope to walk us through a way that we can really, intentionally structure these escape rooms so that when you yourself design one for your students, we're hitting that engagement and we're hitting that content area. So check it out. I'm going to show you this. It says process of scientific inquiry, but I promise my other disciplines, I have not forgotten about you. My history teachers, my Spanish teachers, all other disciplines outside of science, I've not forgot about you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this cycle that I use as a science teacher, right, through my lens. We're going to use this cycle as a framework to sort of make these escape room experiences out of. Now, here's where I'm going to rely on you. Some of these steps within the cycle that I use as a STEM teacher likely are not the same steps that you use within your discipline. For example, my investigation plan as a STEM teacher step is going to look totally different than, say, the quote unquote investigation plan of a history teacher. But I'm going to try to do my best to draw those parallels, and I'm going to rely on your expertise to draw those parallels as well. But I'm going to argue that today, I want you to try to just look at it as the process of blank inquiry, because inquiry can be used across disciplines, and each of these stages have their own equivalent within your discipline. So check it out. In an escape room, we always want to design the escape room around some sort of storyline, right? So I'm going to kind of give you a look underneath the hood, right, to kind of set up the escape room. And then finally, at the end or toward the end, I'm going to get you to see the entire car, right? I want you to see how the students engage with it. How can you make it exciting? So we're going to kind of look at under the hood stuff, which is maybe not the most exciting stuff, but again, very necessary if we want to intentionally set these things up. So the very first thing is a story. All escape rooms are based around this story. Now, you want to make this story hook with your students. I know you're used to doing this. We're used to hooking our students with all kinds of content matter, right? Whether it's something they're interested in, or maybe it's something that teachers and students are interested in. But we want to hook them into a story. So to get you to see the process that I go through to create these different locks, right? Because that can kind of be intimidating. What do I what do I make into what lock? How do I design the lock so that they mean something to the students, that they mean something to my content? Here is our story that I'm going to hook you with. And I know it's a situation that we've all been through as teachers, and that is the case of the leaking juice box. You heard it, the leaking juice box. I know we've all had it. When I was in the public school, they had these awful like juice containers, and they like had that aluminum foil cover on them. And each and every single morning, within 15 minutes, I swear every single time, there was at least one table that was covered in that nasty juice residue. That stuff that you can see like the shine off of, like if you look at it on the right angle. So we've all had this. So here's our story, folks. We are all locked in a classroom. This classroom is full of your students, and before we can get you out of that classroom, you need to create a rule for your students to prevent the juice box from leaking. So I'm going to walk you through sort of our escape room situation, how I would set it up. You're going to get a look into that process, right, that I would follow, and we're going to draw those parallels. So check it out. I'm going to go quick here because I want to really show off the car, not the engine the entire time. So here we go. Ideally, I like to make my escape rooms with 4 to 6 locks. I find that this number 4 to 6 locks allows my students to engage with it and not get through it super quickly, right? But also not drag it out so that students lose interest. So I would always recommend 4 to 6. Luckily, this 4 to 6 rule fits really nicely within that framework that I was just mentioning. So here we go. Here's the first step. The first lock I always have as this. I always ask myself, right, in my student seat, what is the environment and what is within it? What do I want to show my students? What environment are they in, and what can they interact within it? In science, this aligns with messing about, right? You're exposing them to something. You don't want them to solve everything yet. You just want them to notice things. In history, maybe you want them to notice some texts. In language arts, maybe you want them to notice something in some images or in some language. So anyways, that first lock, we always want to be what is the environment, right? And what is within it. Now, here's the super important part about lock number 1. This is like the number 1 thing. The first lock should always be the easiest lock to unlock, because we know once the students get rolling on an activity, it's much easier for them to stay motivated and stay on task. So make this first lock the easiest one, so once they get past it, they're more motivated to keep on going. Now you'll notice the questions that I have, right, for them to submit are not really like there isn't a it's not black and white. There isn't one singular correct answer. This is intentional because you want to essentially set this first lock up so that any answer is a good answer, because that's what draws them in. So in the science context, I would ask them, right? I would give them this data table. I would give them the story, or I would give you as the student the story, right? And I want you to just notice which results surprised you. Do you see any patterns? Since this is science, we have a data table with all sorts of numbers on it. So that's the first lock. What is the environment and what is within it? The second lock, which aligns to our process of inquiry question, which is students sort of formulating that question that they're eventually going to investigate. in a broader sense, that means what should be collected in the environment? What should be answered? What are you even going for, right? This all sort of motivates your students and really sort of channels them in to get to that learning objective that you're getting to, right? Because if you tell them, or if you allude to in the environment what should be collected, you can usually hone them into the ideas that you're trying to actually teach them about. In my case, it's the variable that we should investigate next to explain that stinking juice box that keeps on leaking in my classroom. Now, what I love about lock number 2, what I absolutely love about lock number 2 is I use lock number 2 as sort of like a choose your own journey here. So I usually give it as a format as a multiple choice question, and based on the answer that they choose, or in this case, the question that they choose, this determines the evidence that you will unlock next. Now, you can make these pieces of evidence unique to each student depending on what path you choose. In history, maybe you're choosing between, you got to choose 3 of 6 people to learn something about. What 3 people would you choose to interact with, and why? What should be collected when you talk to them? What questions should you ask them, right? All of this stuff can be found out with lock number 2. Once they make that choice and maybe make that justification of why they should be collecting it, or what should be answered, right? We can say that that lock is unlocked. Maybe that gives another clue that then they can predict what that clue then interacts with within the environment. So that's lock number 2. The most important thing, that choose your own journey option and really trying to hone them into the learning objective. That should be lock number 2. Lock number 3, which aligns with investigation plan and observation. This is more broadly, right, in the scientific sense, the investigation plan and observation, but more broadly, it's how do I find the information to collect? Where do the students go to get it, and what do they have to do to get it? Now, this is a really great point to make the students sort of think about intentionally, right? So going back to, say, the history example, if you go up to one of the 6 people, right, what are you going to ask them? What are you hoping for? Where do you go to find those people? What do you have to do to get the information that you need? Because that information is then going to lead to that next lock. In my case, since I'm thinking of science, I require that third lock to be an amount of data points, right? So, hey, you're going to create your investigation plan to figure out who has that, or how we can prevent that leaky juice, that leaky juice box. You have to collect at least 3 data points from that investigation plan to be able to move on to that 4th and final lock. After they collect the things that they need, we can say that lock number 3 is unlocked. At that point, right, lock number 3 maybe leads to this next part. In science, I call it data analysis, right, in which if they chose drop height as one of their variables, maybe I would give this to them, and this would clue them into that 4th and final lock. In history, maybe it's what the people say that they interact with, right? So the 4th lock, right? They should be using that data that they collected, or those texts that they collected, or those words that they collected, or those pictures that they collected, and they should be analyzing it in a way that informs for that 4th lock. In my case, right, remember there was sort of that choice of path. That's why we have 3 of these. So you could have chose drop height and you would have gotten this. If you chose straw force, maybe you got this pathway. And finally, box material type, you got this data. What we can do is after the students acquire this data, right, from lock number 3, we can get into this explanation phase. And this is probably the easiest one just because explanation, I feel like, is broad across all disciplines. So explanation, right, is more broadly, how do I use this information that I learned from whatever source I got it from, and how does it unlock the environment? Right? So these are sort of the moving pieces that we have to think about in order to design an escape room for our students in a way that we can get our material to them. So that was a peek underneath the hood. I know that was a ton of information. If you got to watch this again, if you got to slow me down, do what you got to do, because the inner working is really, really important to come up with a really meaningful learning experience for your students. So that was the engine. Let me show you the car. Here's all that, all summed up, nice and neat. Each of the steps right there, 1 through 4. Here's the car right here. We're going to crack the code. We are going to see how can we use that process in put it into a vessel in which students can interact with it. This is where some free resources come in, so make sure you stick around. The very first example, I'm going to go through 3 examples. One is totally virtual, one is hybrid, and one is in person. So the first virtual one, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one because I can share it with you. You can do this lab lockdown escape room as soon as tomorrow with your students, and it's all through Google Forms. I chose Google Forms because 1, I can templatize it for you guys. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to give you guys this this escape room right here, and you can swap out the images and the questions, but all of that kind of follows the format that I just mentioned. So you have a template, and I can share it with you, which means you can share it with your students. So if your students are interested in biomedical, or maybe if you just want to see how your students react to an escape room, right, as an engagement tool, this is certainly a great low stakes way you can do that. So here's what it looks like. When you go to the document that that Robin so graciously shared with us, it takes you to a spot like this. Now, when you get to a spot like this, it says link to escape room template. Now, unfortunately, I can only share the escape room with you. It is not editable. If you would like the editable version, you have to email me. It's unfortunately just a weird Google form thing, but I promise if you email me, my email's right there on that document, I will get you a completely customizable one, totally free. You don't even have to write me anything in the email if you don't want to. Just say webinar content, I'll send it your way, and you can try it out. So when you get into this escape room template, this is what mine is, right? Van Andel Institute is a biomedical research organization, and naturally, I had to do a biomedical lab lockdown. So in this one, in this escape room, here's a scenario. You're part of a biomedical research team. Of course, it's student facing, right? Part of a biomedical research team working after school in a science lab. Suddenly, the lab doors lock, the computer system shuts down. Important research data needed to help doctors and patients is trapped inside. To unlock the doors, you must solve a series of scientific challenges. Now, you can choose to go through this yourself. I actually encourage you to, right? That way we can link that process with different things. But I just want to show you sort of the back end of this because, again, if you email me, I can get you an editable version of this, and then you can make it into what you want. So in Google Forms, I'm going to assume that you have been into Google Forms before, you've logged into Google before, and you can get to this page. Now, the reason why I love this template is because there's some different functions within this escape room that are really important for your students. For example, on this first one, right, this is set up so that each quote unquote lock is a different section. So you'll notice that this is a very small section right here. I have to get this section correct before I can get to the next. And I get to the next section, right, by getting the clues. In this case, I see the password is I love reading directions. I usually like to throw in a silly one, but again, this is that super easy lock. It's going to hook your students to keep on progressing through. If I get this wrong, if I say blah, 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 and I hit next, it's going to say, please try another sign-on option. Now, I created that phrase right there. I created that, please try another sign-in option. It will not progress until you give the correct password, which is up here. If they read the directions, they should know what the password is. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in there, just like that. Again, this is why I like this template, because I've gone through the hassle to set all of those up. All you have to do is swap out these images, swap out the questions, right? And swap out the storyline to get you to the content that you want to share with your students. Now, you'll notice a lot of these, like it or not, are AI generated images. I love to use AI for this purpose. It makes the storyline authentic. You can see, oh, now that we logged into the computer, we can see the camera inside of the locked lab, right? And then we're going to ask questions about it, about our observations, and how can we create a question that verifies our identity so that we can open up the door. So this one's super engaging. I encourage you to try it out yourself. See what your students think of it. This is all within a Google form. Again, the settings are already set for you. So I'm going to leave that there as a template. We have a very short time left, so I want to keep on moving. But Google form, check it out. Check out the settings I got going on it. And I know you can create your own too within your own discipline using that framework that we talked about. Now, the second example is, I'm going to go down to this one actually. This one's kind of fun. This one's one that I have not seen done before. I led a cohort. Essentially, it's an after-school program where I see students for 2 hours after every other day of the week. Now, that part's not important. The most important part is that with them, I tried an escape room within Tinkercad. If you're unfamiliar with Tinkercad, this is sort of the hybrid version, right? Tinkercad is this CAD modeling software, right? Where essentially you can make 3D digital virtual objects. Now this is totally free. That's why I love it. I love using free materials, right? So Tinkercad is this free modeling software. And what we can do with this, or what I have done with it that I'm hoping maybe you can take some ideas from, is if I go to Tinkercad, should have had this pulled up, my apologies. And I'm going to show you the escape room that I used with my students. So this is within my Tinkercad. I made four different parts. This was around disasters, right? This was my disaster detectives cohort. So we were focused entirely around disasters. Now, each of these activities within Tinkercad that I created were all designed to help them understand how Tinkercad works. If you go into this, I can say tinker this, again, totally free, just takes a couple seconds to set up an account. I can set up sort of a quote unquote escape room within here, right? There's 4 parts, you earn 4 keys. After each part, you can show me what you've created in the digital environment, and I'm either going to give you the red key, or I'm going to say you might have to revisit the different criteria and constraints. Now I did this one. This one's design a tower, right? That's at least 40 centimeters tall. There's a shaking function on it. If you teach history or language arts or English, maybe you're talking about the environment. Maybe you're modeling different historical settings, right? So you can create criteria and constraints for students to hopefully achieve within the digital workspace, earn their key, and progress through our process, right? For that escape room. So that's my hybrid. Example. And finally, I have the third example. The third example is our in-person mode, right? How do I really bring this alive and put it in front of the faces of my students? Now, we use like a crime scene or like a clue kind of setup, right? So we actually go in our science labs, we set up our labs with a bunch of different props of just things that we have laying around our lab, and we set up a super engaging experience where students are still following that process, right? But it's all within the actual physical environment. As you can see, this is super engaging for students. If you have a lot of stuff laying around, this is a great way to do it. But again, we can use that framework, right? That framework of inquiry before, and we can apply it to any storyline. I used Clue. I could use this crime scene, right? Hey, in order to leave today, we got to figure out who, committed this murder or whatever it was. Can you solve it, right? We can't leave until we solve it at the end of the day. So that is certainly a vessel for inquiry as well. So my challenge to you is to take one of your lessons and take one of those 3 ways that we can create escape rooms and try to build it into a story that students can engage with while also using that process so that they learn in a super meaningful way. Now, that was a lot of information. In that resource guide, I have lots of links and lots of summarized points for you to explore. And we have much, much more on the way. If you enjoyed today, that was a lot of information. You might have to go back, you might have to rewatch it or send it to a friend and rewatch it with them. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, we are always trying to find that new cutting edge thing to engage your students in really meaningful experiences. The next free webinar is all about 67 ways to turn the viral trends into teaching wins. That is on February 18th. I promise you're not going to want to miss that one. Ben is great. Ben's super fun and engaging. You are going to absolutely love that one. So if you love engaging your students, make sure you stick around for that one. And February 19th for administrators, we have a Better Together, the Leader's Guide to a Collaborative School. I know that was super quick, guys. I wish I had lots more time for today. our sponsor today, check out that inquiry outpost. If you use thank-u, 20% off. That's for you. You're welcome. And finally, thank you for being here. If you have any questions about today, or if I mentioned something and you just didn't quite get deep enough with it, please just email me. Or if you want that editable copy, just email me. I will literally send it to you. If I know I get an email within the next 15 minutes, I know exactly what you want. So connect with me. I'll get that editable copy to you, and I want to see what you do with it. I know you guys are amazing. I know you guys can take this and spin it within your own discipline. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Take care, and I hope to see you in the next webinar.